So let's start. The theme of the week is dynamic image grids with Document. I know that sometimes displaying images can be a bit of a struggle, but today I will show you how to display an image grid. So essentially, if you have more than, well, a large number of images and you don't want to display them vertically, and when you try to display them horizontally, they get a bit, well, they don't get formatted correctly. So today we'll see how to add an image grid, which means that you'll display images in a row, and then the sequence of images that will be displayed below it, and the same number of images by row. So I'll start today with a template from scratch. So a new template, start from scratch, and it's pretty simple. Today I'll be using Airtable, but you can set this up with any other source. It would be a bit different, but it's pretty similar. I have here a test base where I have some images, and I'll connect to the stable one, and I'll only select my image field since I will only be using images today. So let me share with you this base and the item I'll be using. So I have here this base. It has some images, and today I'll be displaying these, oh, cute dogs. I know that now I have 8 images. I can add some more, but for now I'll just try to display these 8 images. But if I try to display them in, let's go back to Document. If I set this up in Document and try to display them in one row, so I see here dynamic image, I select my image URL and say I want to display, well, if I just do that, I'll display only one image, only the first image I have there, which is this cute one. And if I want to display all of them, what I need to do is to set up a loop. So if I set up the loop over the image field in a row, then I'll have to select here the URL, and then I'll just have the images being presented vertically. So I'll have something like this. And if I want to display them horizontally, then I would set up the loop in the column level. Let me share with you the content panel so it will be easier to look. So here I have my image that's inside a column, and the column is inside the row. So if I set up the loop in the column, I would have something like this. And let's have a preview. And the images would look like this, which is not ideal. So how can I be a grid of images? How can I make them display nicely? So let's start with a variable that will do that for us. So what we'll do now is that we'll type in a variable, and it starts with $var. So what we'll do here is that we'll create the variable that will call the function that will reproduce, that will get to our image grid. So I'll have here image grid. It's very important that this variable doesn't have any spaces. So if you want to give it a space, you can use an underscore instead. And this is the key point. This is our function. So here we'll be using the chunk function. So what this will do is that this will take the list of images we have, and it will chunk them into smaller groups. So today I will chunk the images field. So I'll have here images. So I'm telling Document that I want to chunk the information coming from this list into groups. So today I want groups of 2. So I'll close this up with a parenthesis that I just opened, and then I'll close the entire variable with the curly double braces. And that's it. My variable is created. And now how can I use this with the actual variables I have, with the actual images I have? Apologies. So what I'll do here is that I'll drag an image element. I'll set it to be, well, it can be dynamic. We can manually set this up here. And okay, I want them to display like this. So 2 columns, and I have image 1, image 2, and then I want image 3 and image 4 coming in this way. So let's do this. So what I'll do here now is that I'll select the row that's holding everything together, and then I'll go to edit logic and loop over the image grid variable we just created. So I'll go here, repeat loop, use manual input, and here I'll have my image grid variable, and I'll save it. So now every time I have this group of 2 images here that I'm chunking, the row will be repeated with the same pattern and the same edits we make. So I will now, to tell Documint to display the first and the second image, I need to give Documint a bit of help. So I'll say I want to repeat this image over the first URL. So I'll tell Documint that's the first by typing in .0 and URL. And remember, here we have a list of items. So here I have images, and I wanted the image element to display for each URL. So here I want to display the first one, and here I want to display the second. Well, to make things easier, I can start adjusting this right here, and let me center the image. Let me put some static height, and then the width will adjust with it. And let me just duplicate this column and delete this one. So here I already have the variable for the URL, and here I'll tell Documint to look into the second item of that list. So what this will do is that this one will look into the first URL of that first chunk, and this one will look into the, sorry, it's number 1, into the second URL of this chunk right here. And then once it repeats the row, for each row, it will look into the first URL from the chunk, and then the other image will look into the second URL of the chunk. So let's have a quick look and see how it works. Okay, let me give it another try. Maybe it didn't save. Okay, there you go. So that's essentially it. It's pretty simple. You can set up some margins to the column, so the images do look nicely spaced. And everything that's inside that row will be repeated, so you don't have to worry to set this up in all of them. So every time the row is repeated, the same settings will be repeated. And here I have some spacing between them. We can make it bigger, maybe something like this. And we can add some rounded corners to make the images look nicer. Same for this one. And let's preview. And that's essentially it. That's how you build a grid of images. You can set up in different chunks. So we can try here in 3. And then we'll need to add another one here. Okay, something happened. Okay, good. And we have 0 to the first URL. We have 1 to the second URL, and to the third URL follows the same concept. So it will be 2. And we can have 3 images for each row. And that's it. The sky's the limit. You can set up it in many different ways. You can use this for data. So say you have other variables other than the image that you want to be displayed. For example, the name of the dog. You can add it to this column right here. and you can add the variable here, the field here, and it will be displayed. So feel free to test around, and I'll be here if you need any help. And that's it for today. Thank you very much for watching.